I'm Daniel Iseli, and I'm the owner of Rocket Longboards.
That's perfect. You managed the first question perfectly, so we're good on that.
Been there, done that. I got like a cheap Walmart board or the Swiss equivalent of a Walmart board when I was a kid. Sit on it and like roll down the street. Nothing fancy, but then I really started skating when I was 16. I bought my first slalom board, or that's what we called slalom boards back in the day. They were really famous in Switzerland. The brand is Indiana. They were short, really flexy, flat boards. I mean, no concave, but a lot of camber and a lot of flex. And everybody had one of those when I was young. And so at 16, 1996, I bought one of those. Then just a year or two later, I started street skating. A couple of years later, I think in my early 20s, we were still street skating, but our whole group, we were really bad at it. But we had a lot of fun, but couldn't really skate well. And then one of the guys got introduced into downhill longboarding, and we all thought, wow, that's amazing, because you don't have to go like try a trick 1,000 times and fail 1,000 times. You can just go down a hill and have fun. And that's how it started for me. In the beginning, we were not sliding, we were just like carving down the hills, but we have good hills here in Switzerland. Fun was the most important part, and still it is. My first board I built in 2009. I mean, first when we started, there was no YouTube. We didn't really know, but what existed was there was a German longboard forum called longboards.de. There was a huge building section with so many people who built their own board. And you can learn so much of that because I mean, I'm not a carpenter. I never learned how to build a longboard. Everything was learning by doing, and get a lot of information from this German forum and also from Silverfish. There was a huge building scene there. Just in the German forum, we had building contests with over 70 people who built the board just for a contest once a year. Unfortunately, that's completely gone now, and there are almost no people anymore who build their own boards. But that was a really interesting time. There were brands like WeFunk and brands like 313 who built carbon foam core boards in their kitchens, and I thought I want to do that as well because it looked so interesting. And yeah, that's how I started to actually build my own boards. The boards that were available on the market didn't really fit my needs or what I wanted. And also, second, I saw that it is possible to build an amazing board with just a few tools and with really basic equipment you can get for a couple of bucks. I mean, technically, now there are no really hard parts anymore because I built boards for over 10 years now, almost like 15 years now, and I've done everything so many times already. I can tell what works and what doesn't work. I try to challenge myself with like trying new approaches, trying new methods, trying new things. The most interesting part of building boards is actually not building a board 1,000 times. It's like developing the whole board, developing the mold for the board, maybe new pressing techniques, because not all boards can be pressed the same way. Working with new materials, finding different approaches, how you can use these materials for different applications. Basically, I'm always trying to challenge myself with new stuff because that's what interests me. This is a really difficult question because we have so many boards, and since I developed all of them, sometimes with the help of other people, but it's really hard to pick a favorite because I can like talk for hours about like certain details on certain boards. Right now, to be honest, like I think my favorite would be the asymmetrical Rhino Racetail because it's new and it's really special. It's of course it has the race tail. The race tail is asymmetrical, so it works for either goofy riders or regular riders, but also the shape is asymmetrical. And I think it's probably one of the first boards that there are already boards on the market with an asymmetrical nose or something like that. Went even further, and we have like different rail widths, so we have like more leverage on heel side and on toe side, on heel side. So I think that's probably my favorite right now because so much thought went into this board. It was really interesting to work in that. That's a good question. I definitely need to think about that. My favorite non-rocker board. I can give you an answer, but that's a board that probably a lot of people won't know anymore. Really old board. I think just from the aesthetics and of the shape and the graphics, my favorite board would be Fullback Death or Glory. It looks really punk. It has a punk graphic. It's pointy. It looks mean. And I just like the whole aesthetic of that board. I'm actually working right now on a board that has a similar aesthetic because I could never stop thinking about this shape and this, like what this board tries to say. Maybe you will see a board with a similar shape from us, not a copy, but inspired by the Fullback Death and Glory. I mean, it's really, really difficult to design a shape that hasn't been here before. Because in the end, it's just a skateboard, and there are only so many ways how you can like design a skateboard.
Yeah.
And so you can see always you see old stuff or old shapes coming back sometimes, like in different sizes, in different forms. But I've already designed shapes because I was thinking about something, a mold or something I wanted to try, designed a shape. And then in the end, I looked at it and thought, fuck, I just designed another wolf shark. Just, I don't know, just an example. But you can look at it and think, oh, damn it, that already exists. So back to the drawing board, working on it again. I think a hit was like the first Rambler that we brought out. First of all, it's an amazing board, but second of all, I think that also was the right board at the right time. Because we brought it out, I think when the pandemic started, when a lot of people like they couldn't do their usual hobbies anymore, and quite a few who skated when they were younger, they bought a skateboard again, wanted to get out and like go skating, and a lot of these that didn't want to invest like $1,000 in a platform setup, and so quite a few people they bought a Rambler just with a quite a basic setup with some Paris and some just like maybe some random 85 millimeter wheels, and they had a great board that worked really well for what they were doing. So, and I think, but that was just like the combination of like the board being good and also like the right timing. Good question, because we never really had a board that didn't sell at all. Of course, there were boards that sold less than expected. For example, I think one of them is the new Dances that we brought out last year. And I think they didn't sell that much because they were bad, because from all the reviews you hear from people that got them, I mean, both of them are amazing boards. But I think it's just that I think the timing isn't that good because dancing is not that popular anymore. We used to sell a lot of boards, a lot of dancing boards in Asia, but so the dancing scene in Asia went back a lot or went down a lot. So yeah, good boards, not the best timing, I think.
But there's one question I have to ask, and you probably hate me for it, but
Go on.
Wer hat's erfunden?
Oh, the good old Nicola. Yeah. It's actually funny that this is something that nobody asked so far. So it's not that I get asked that all the time. think I'm just proud of what I built in general with Rocket, because when I started, that was still the heydays, and there were so many brands, and there was a huge scene, and a lot of these brands are gone now. And I'm really happy and also proud that I keep everything afloat during like good times and bad times, because it's not a big secret that the last, 2022 and 23 were really, really shitty years for the whole industry. Yeah, we're still here. Last year was a lot better, so you can tell that it's going up again, and that just needed a lot of work and also a lot of mental power to like fight through this. And yeah, well, I'm still happy and proud that we're still here. Everything's salty and not a sweet guy, and probably it's not healthy, but chips.
Which
Or
flavor?
the everything.
That's not an answer.
Salt and vinegar. That's there's always something next. I started building more than 15 years ago, and I was never at the point where I thought, oh, okay, I don't know what to do anymore, because there's always a development, there's always something going on. And as I told, I'm a builder. I wanna try new things. I wanna try new stuff, and it's for me it's boring to like always make the same things. I want to try something new. I want to bring something new, and so there's always something next. Right now, we are working on like 4 new boards that might come out this season or not. We're working on new long distance boards. Like, yeah, we just released the Rambler V2, but there's another long distance board in the making that's a bit more complicated, and that will, if it works the way I imagine right now, will probably be quite groundbreaking. And we are working on 2 or 3 new downhill decks, and it never stops. Can't stop, won't stop. Well, as usual, I would like to thank everybody who bought our boards, who is planning to buy a board, who likes our boards, who supports us. Without you, we wouldn't be here, and also without all the support we get. Is it like, be it people who buy a board, or also like the good feedback we get? That's what makes me get up in the morning and like try to build something new and amazing for you guys.
That sounds good. Like in demoing boards or things you have tried, what would you say was the craziest construction you did? I mean, I've seen the picture where you were holding the Rambler wood core, and I saw all these like holes. I thought, whoa, this looks insane. But or the Rhino race tail. That's also, I think, something that is definitely like, this was a missing thing in the market. I think people are very interested in it. But what would you say? What was your craziest construction or the wildest thing you tried?
I'd say probably the first time we had the LAF construction. That was the Ian Frary Pro model. That was, I think, 2017 or 18, and at that moment, that was by far the lightest production board you could buy. And there were already like boards with urethane edges. I think Moonshine was already there. I think Loaded already had their Chub Unicorn a little bit before. But we, even though the boards looked similar because of the urethane rails, they were quite different. We used a way lighter core. We used like different pressing techniques. And I developed the whole thing by myself, just because I thought, okay, so what they're trying with the urethane rails, that could actually be a good idea. but I don't really like their approach. So I thought, how could I do it differently and, of course, better? Because different is not always better, and not I'm not doing things differently for the sake of being different, but actually for to try out what could work better or would be like easier to produce or something like that. Yeah, you mentioned the Rambler Hollow Core that was like already in our dancing boards before.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, how can I save some weight in the dancing boards? So I started experimenting with hollow cores. And yeah, you also mentioned the race tail. That was definitely like one of the craziest things I built so far. And that was really fun to develop because at the beginning it was just a joke. We thought, come on, let's fucking try it. And it started as a joke, but then we realized that we're onto something. And and the interesting thing is that actually like between the thing being a joke and then like being like able to actually produce that thing without making any blams, it's just like 3 months or maybe 2 months, because the first try actually worked so well that we only had to like sand a couple of things and like just work on some really small details, and bam, we had it. And so that was definitely a fun project.
Awesome, awesome. You don't have to like open anything, but do you use like a two-part pressing process, or do you like one part?
Uh, all of our molds are only one part. That means we only use female molds, and the male part is usually mimicked by a big bladder that we fill with compressed air. This actually has a lot of advantages, because that's also something I developed myself, because I've seen this in some from some snowboard builders.
Yeah, just one question.
Yeah, sorry.
Um, I really appreciate you telling me all this, but if there's something you probably don't want to get out, we can also stop at any time.
No worries.
Okay.
I don't really have a lot of secrets, and of course, I'm not going to tell any. So
Okay, then it's fine.
fine with sharing all these
Okay,
information.
then please go on. Sorry.
No worries. Yeah, well, yeah, having only like one part molds has a lot of advantages, um, and in my opinion, only one disadvantage. The only disadvantage is that we cannot press really steep drops, because then the bladder wouldn't actually deform into these drops. Apart from that, I think this technique only has advantages because we can switch out molds in our presses. We don't really have, of course, they have to be kind of aligned, but it's a lot easier than if you had to align a positive and a negative mold. We have a way better pressure distribution because the bladder distributes the pressure absolutely evenly on the whole board. And it's so much easier to prototype like this because you only need like one part, and prototyping is something that works really easy here because I take a block of MDF, put it on a CNC, mill a mold, put it in the press a blank, mill it, and then we can directly try it. And we already had the, I think what was it with one of the rhinos, we tested every weekend. We tested a different prototype for like a month,
Wow.
and so on Monday we were sitting down and like changing the mold again, milling the mold, pressing a new prototype, try it again the next weekend, and so on, so on. And that it's just it works a lot faster than if you always had to make like two parts and actually always like check the alignment and everything. And also like something like the race tail wouldn't be possible with a two-part mold. That only works with the way we press it.
That's a good answer. One thing I'm really fascinated by, and it's probably also on the wish list for this year. Let's see if we can make it happen. Um, or basically, if I can set some budget aside, because, well, I don't have to tell you, I have probably too many boards here. And my girlfriend is also listening. She would probably agree on this.
There's no such thing as too many boards.
I really dig like the whole aesthetic of the Excalibur, the Bumpy Hales Pro model. That thing is, it's, I think it's unlike everything that's right now on the market. Can you tell me a little bit more about this one?
Um, yeah, this is definitely what you said, like unlike anything else on the market, because also here we just like we went away from the usual paths that we that like we made a completely different approach with the camber we put in it. This is something that you don't really see in other boards. But also here, it's not different for the sake of being different because it actually works. And so a lot of people who buy that board, they actually give us the feedback saying like, I was not 100% sure if it works, but it actually does. And so this is the best feedback we can get, because if you know Bumpy, if you see how he's riding, you can tell that he has a different style. He has a different approach to riding, and I thought we should actually like try to like fit everything into the board like he would do it, because if I can maybe like give you a little bit of insight in how the development went with that board, because that was really interesting. Because Bumpy always had like quite flat boards,
Mm-hmm.
because he was chopping his boards from like, some really huge other boards, and so at first we thought maybe let's try some rocker. He didn't really like that because he was used to have the
Mm-hmm.
flat board, and so I made a prototype for him that was completely flat lengthwise. That means it had no rocker, no camber, nothing, but just like a minimal concave, and that's it. And he was riding that board on at the K&K, and he was getting second at the No Plus Down on that prototype. And but I was there when he set it up because I gave it to him at the K&K, and I was watching him while he was like putting implants on his board, and while he was starting like putting this camber implant into
Mm-hmm.
this, so he just stacked some grip tape, and so that made actually his front foot like tilt a little bit forward. And I saw that, and he said, "Oh, I'm absolutely happy with that board. We can produce it like that, amazing." And then I said, "But the first thing I saw you doing is like putting some implants." And I thought, "Hey, Bump, why not try pressing that into the board?" Because he also puts in a toe wedge, and so that's the reason why I suggested to even try having a little bit of camber and also more concave on the toes that mimics kind of these toe implants he
Mm-hmm.
had. And I told him, hey, we can always get back to the mold we had, because I can just throw it on a CNC again and just erase it and put the old mold on it again.
Mm-hmm.
And so we thought, why not? Let's give it a try. And it just, like, we had to change just some tiny things, but it was amazing. And it was exactly what he wanted. But he didn't really dare to ask for it, to put that crazy stuff into a board. And I thought, we have to try it, because if we don't try it, we never know if it would work. And it works amazingly. So yeah, feedback on that board is really, really great.